today I am treating myself, but I am going to a museum. I'm going to the Art and History Museum. It is for free today because our king is in power for 10 years and so all the royal museums are open for free this weekend. But when I calculated my journey here, I could either be half an hour before opening time or half an hour after opening time. And silly me was like, oh, it's fine. Half an hour early, I can just sit in the park. Yeah, it's raining. So I will at least be there at opening time.
Things unspoken, we can't hold this talking.
It's a strange world we live in. All we want is loving, searching for things unspoken. We can't hold this talking. Touch the fire.
Burn your hands with the desire
Of the future
it's hopeless,
in this battle.
and we're losing and searching for affection, but searching isn't finding. Sit back, relax, 'cause love is blinding. Searching for affection, but searching isn't finding. Sit back and relax, 'cause love is blinding.
It's a strange world we live in. All we want is loving, searching for things unspoken. We can't hold this talking.
Stick to the trail. No, don't go off the path. Going in a circle, lost, no going back. Lost and we're not going.
So today was all about treating myself, and that is because you guys voted for treat yourself as the next prompt for me to fulfill. So I am under 100 pages away from finishing A Dowry of Bloods, which was for the previous prompt, so the non-human POV prompt. Today I've kind of been treating myself, but I don't count this as my treat myself prompt officially because I had been planning to do this before I was like fully sure that this was going to be the prompt. So this was going to be a treat to myself day in any case. But in spirit of the treat yourself day, I am going to talk about that prompt. So you chose treat yourself. You had the option between continue a series, for which it would have been Saga Volume 10, one word title, for which it would have been Upstream, first person POV, for which it would have been Greek lessons, then treat yourself, for which I could of course choose whatever type of book that I wanted to, and I'm going to be choosing Arboreality for that one. I don't remember anything what it is about. This is from a very small publishing house that basically publishes climate related literature. I've read After the Dragons by them. I really enjoyed that one, and I have been following them, so I have seen this book on my Instagram timeline so much, but it recently got back to my attention because it recently got nominated for the Ursula K. Le Guin Prize. So it is a short one. I'm going to be using it for a cluster of 2, and so that's why I'm allowing myself this book. It's a very short one. It's on a prize list. I had been for a moment tempted to try and read the entire Ursula K. Le Guin Prize list, but I'm gonna do the Booker Prize instead, I think. But so yeah, that is going to be my treat. That is going to be part of my treat myself, because that is the book that accompanies my treat. And my treat is going to be that the next prompt I am choosing, not you guys. And so I can already tell you guys that the next prompt that I'm going to be choosing is going to be indie or self-published, because I've actually already started reading a book that can count for that prompt. So we'll not go into that one yet. I'll not run too far ahead of myself. I mean, to some extent, I feel like I should talk about it because I'm already listening to it, and I feel like I'm already like I'm 125 pages in. It is something like 200 and something, so I'm already halfway through. So should I maybe already talk about it? Maybe. Let's embrace the chaos of talking about multiple books throughout this vlog, and not really following any order. But so I'm choosing Terminal Boredom by Suzumi, something like that. This is a very orange book, so it definitely perfectly falls in line with the matching your cover to your prompt aspect of the readathon. And this is a short story collection. This is the first work by them that has been translated into English. And these are like sci-fi short stories. For example, one of the first short stories is about a world in which there are like boys still exist, but they're super rare, and like people haven't, like the women that we're following haven't seen them in like a very long time. But then she kind of sees one outside of her window late at night. And I really enjoyed that one. Actually, I enjoyed the first two a lot, and then I think the third and the fourth have been like less gripping to me. So we'll see if I can get back on track with them. But yeah, they're sci-fi short stories. It's another Japanese author that I'm eager to read from. I don't know whether any other of their work have been translated in the meantime, because that was the first one, so it would be kind of sad, I guess, to some extent, if I end up enjoying them and then don't have anything else by them to read from. But I can just keep up with their releases as they're coming out in translation. But so that has been my choice for indie or self-published. It's published by Verso Books, I believe it is, which is it says like it's the largest independent bookstore, I think, or publisher. Yes. But yeah, my body absolutely hates me. I was so happy to be back home after today's excitement, because it was a treat yourself moment. But I definitely did a lot of steps for it. I did like 18,000 steps or something for it. Did like more than 20 floors. And yeah, when I tried to get up from this sofa earlier to go and cook, I definitely felt it in the legs and the hips and the pelvis and everything around there is just not happy. So let's just keep slacking away for the rest of the evening, get a good night's sleep, and then hopefully tomorrow everything will be perfectly in order again. I don't think I'm gonna go run tomorrow. Normally Monday morning was supposed to be my run, but I think I'll move it to Tuesday morning this week, just to give my body a little bit extra time to recover. All right, so I finished A Dowry of Blood yesterday. So I finished it. It was for me sort of like meh. I mean, it definitely had its good part. Its good parts. There were definitely moments in which I thought like, oh, that's very, very well put. It's very interesting because the dynamics here are very much toxic dynamics. It's very much a toxic relationship, and very much looking at this group of people who are basically dependent upon their maker, and about the toxic relationship that builds between them, but how they're also very much dependent upon him and reliant upon him and feel very much in love with him, and like he loves them, and that kind of keeps them in this cycle of abuse. And so that is very interesting about it. But a lot of the time, I felt like I was falling asleep. So a lot of the time, I felt like it was kind of boring and drawn out. So unfortunately, this one didn't fully work for me. But I mean, as I said, I definitely enjoyed parts about it. I definitely enjoyed the concept and the themes of this one. It just, in times, kind of dragged for me, which is sad to say about a 290-page book. So I think for me personally, this could have just been condensed even further, make this a 200-page book, and maybe I would have enjoyed it a lot more. And then what I didn't mention yesterday is that I also got a book yesterday. So I got this beautiful special edition of Inkbloods is subscribed by Emma Tors, which all I really know about this one is that it has like a secret library or something like that, and the family that we're following is they're kind of like the guardians of this secret library or this secret collection of books, and so their collection is in danger, and so they have to rally to save the books. Now I'm gonna go into Arboreality, which, as I indicated, I don't actually know what it is about. I looked at part of the synopsis yesterday and it seems to be like post-apocalyptic. It also seems to be that it was originally like a short story or something like that, and then it got developed into a more sort of like full form novel, though it's more like a novella because it's like 100 and something pages. But I'm really looking forward to that because, as I said, it's nominated for the Ursula K. Le Guin Prize. I have been following this publisher. The one experience I have with this publisher, I really enjoyed. So if this is another hit, then I definitely need to keep an eye on this publisher and read more of their published works. But so that's what I'm going to be reading now. I'm also almost done with Terminal Boredom. I've got like 50 minutes left of the audiobook for that one, so that will be done tomorrow most likely. So I'm going to be done with 2 more prompts in the course of these 2 days. And the way that the poll for the next prompt is going at the moment, I'll probably be able to count Fate of the Fallen for that one. So we're making progress, hopefully, right around now. Hello guys, so I made quite some progress yesterday because, I made quite some progress. I did make progress yesterday, but some of the progress is also achieved earlier. But so, yesterday I DNF'd Arboreality. It was not for me. It's like interconnected short stories that have to do with climate change, or like it's climate fiction, so it's a world beyond like the catastrophic consequences of climate change, a world that has to like rely on fewer and fewer resources. So for example, in one of the short stories you'll have a character who is basically trying to save a library collection because of flooding. Like they have to relocate books, and books have become so much more important because the internet is down, and so if you want to figure out how to do a certain thing, you kind of need books to tell you how to do it, because this is type of information that throughout the past century or so we've kind of forgotten, because it's no longer like passed down from generation to generation, as we have had the internet as a resource for learning anything we needed to learn on the fly. And another story is about like a person who wants to create violins, but because of the scarcity of trees, there are fewer and fewer trees that have enough of a quality to be able to create a proper violin, for example. So it's all about these types of short stories, and they are supposed to be interconnected, but I'm just bored. I cannot focus on them. I'm bored. The language, like, it's not so easy that with a minimum amount of intellectual effort, which is all I can muster for it at this point in time, I can fully understand what's going on. So a lot of times I'm just zoning out. So I really pushed myself to get to the 50-page mark. So at least I could count it for one space. Which originally I was gonna count it for 2, but so fine, I'm fine with a 1 space. It's also okay. But yeah, this was not my original intention, and yeah, this was not a book for me, unfortunately, because I had been looking forward to trying it out. It had been one on my radar for a while, but I'm very happy that even though I feel like quite a few books this month are turning out to be a little bit more of like meh reads or things like that, I am reading a lot of things that have been on my radar and that who knows when I would have picked them up. And so I'm happy that I'm getting to some of those now, and even if they're turning out to not successful, at least I know that now, and they can be off of that mental radar of like, oh, I should try that book one day, you know. Another thing that I finished in the meantime is Terminal Boredom by Usuki Suzumi, I think her name is. Um, this one unfortunately didn't work as well for me as I had hoped to. Maybe I just need to get back to it at some point in time with more focus on it, but these were like sci-fi stories, and I definitely enjoyed some of them. I enjoyed the first two, and I think I enjoyed the last one as well, but for some others, the concept, like, there's a lot of distance. It's a very distant tone in the narration, and that didn't really work all that well for me for definitely like the two or three middle short stories. But the concepts definitely are interesting. A lot of it also has to do with like memory. The final short story that is also like the titular short story, Terminal Boredom, kind of also looks at like how we've become like desensitized, how like we live for entertainment, entertainment, and like nothing is really, like nothing provides shock value anymore, and like this person doesn't really have a job that she can pursue because there's nothing that she's really good at or anything like that. She's just spending her time like watching TV the entire time. And then and so I think that it does like dive into very interesting concepts and very interesting topics, but not it didn't always work for me, and the style didn't always work for me because of that sense of distance that I felt. Now that's pretty normal, I think, in Japanese literature, but in this one, or maybe in this one it didn't work, or maybe I'm just like not in the mood for that type of narration at this point in time. And then after that, you guys once again voted orange, which was back to prompt number one because it's book 11. And then I got a mood read, which meant that I can finally count Fate of the Fallen by Cal Kate, which is an over 300-page book, so I can count a full six space cluster for it, which is why I haven't been using it earlier when I had, like with Treat Yourself, I had the option, for example, but I didn't have a six-space cluster, and I was like, no, I will get to a six-space cluster at a later point in time within the month, I'm sure, so I won't use Fate of the Fallen yet for this one. So I've been holding on to that one for a perfect prompt, and so now I had the opportunity. So the next prompt that you guys voted for is to read a book that makes me hungry. First time you guys have finally voted for a blue prompt, because even though I felt like, oh, I'm not being strategic about all of this, because for the first five choices or so, I didn't necessarily look all that much into the strategy of where I was going to place my spaces. You know, I was more looking at like, what do I want to read, what fits the prompt, what is the length of cluster that best fits that. And I was like, yeah, wait, I'm not getting any columns, but I would have never been able to get any columns because you guys were never voting blue. Unfortunately, I still cannot get to a column with this blue prompt, but we are definitely getting like further with it. We're definitely getting more progress with this one. The thing is that for this prompt, I have a book that's like one space cluster. I have a book that would be like a two space cluster. And then I have a lot of books that would be like four or more. Ideally, I want to do the two space cluster. I'm just not sure I want to read that book. It's called The Short History of Spaghetti. And it's an account of the apparently interesting history of the invention of spaghetti, or how we got to what is now considered spaghetti. But yeah, I don't know whether I'm in the mood for something like that. However, I think the two space cluster is the perfect cluster to try, because with that, I have access to the final orange cluster. And so if after that I read a book 50 pages that counts for an orange prompt, I can get 5 bonus points for completing the orange color. So I probably will go for it, and hoping that because it's only 100 pages, I will get through it easily. But I've just DNF'd Arbor Reality after struggling to get to the first 50 pages. So that's making me wary. But this one is nonfiction, so I'm hoping that it's not going to be as dry, though nonfiction can definitely be dry. So we'll just have to see, I guess. But yeah, working from home today, I did go running this morning for the first time in a week, probably more or less. I think I ran last Thursday, is now Wednesday. I did go finally at the correct pace in order for my heart rate to stay low enough, which means I went at like tortoise pace, so slow. But my hip, while I still feel it, it's not as much as, like, it's not aggravating me as much as it has been aggravating me every previous time I went running. So hopefully that means that if I just stick to this pace for a while, that the hip will get used to running, and I can increase it afterwards. But so, so video is processing in case you hear some computer background noises, but I was just about to start another book. So for the final prompt, you guys, looks like you're going to be voting Mood Read. Thank you guys a lot for that. And I was like, perfect, Yellow Face. It's a yellow book. Like, I wanted something a little bit shorter, but fine, I can listen to it on audiobook. It's perfect. Guess who listened to too much on script this month and no longer have access to Yellowface? So I'm gonna try to do Chouette instead, because I do still have access to that one. And then maybe throughout the weekend I might still get to Yellowface for one or the other prompts, but yeah. I only have access to Yellowface again during the weekend, and during the weekend is when I'm going to be Buffy. During the weekend is when I'm gonna be using like my own choices, so I don't wanna pollute it with your choice. So I'm gonna do Chouette, and then hopefully it'll turn out fine. It's a book with disability representation. That's all I remember about it. But yeah, I'm gonna be listening to that now while I cook. So I did still finish the 2 remaining prompts that you guys had given me. So the second to last, which I already talked about, is the book that makes you hungry, for which I did in the end go with A Short History of Spaghetti with Tomato Sauce by Massimo Mantonari, I think it was, but I'm not entirely sure about the last name. But so it was shorter than expected, but I'm still counting the full page count, because if I would have had a physical book, or like even in the ebook, it does get to the 119 page count. It's just that like the last, I don't know, 40 pages or so of that are just like notes. But yeah, it was in principle somewhat interesting. However, it's the type of information that I could get out of like maybe an article or something like that. I was kind of expecting it to be a little bit more entertaining or even a little bit more deep, because in the introduction and the conclusion, it kind of looks at like, it kind of talks about how it wants to look at the history of this recipe, not just as like an account of like when did it start, but kind of looking at this recipe and the evolution of this recipe in relation to different cultures and to the movements of society and stuff like that. And so while it definitely did that, I was expecting there to be like, I don't know, more deeper thoughts about how culture and things like that are impacted by other societies and the contact with other societies. But so it was definitely still interesting. It was interesting to see like the evolution that a recipe goes through, and how something as iconic as spaghetti with tomato sauce actually only came about in its current form relatively recently. So I did definitely think it was interesting in that sense, but like, could I have done without having read this book? Yeah, absolutely. And then the final prompt that you guys gave me was a very lovely mood read, yellow prompt. And for that one, I ended up going with Chouette by Claire. And here again, I don't really know the last name anymore. And this is a book that is by, I think it is by a disabled author as well, because I think this came onto my radar because Jen Campbell talked about it, and she was talking about it being on a list for a prize that is a literary prize for disabled creators. And so in this one, we are looking at a young couple who get pregnant, And the woman is convinced from the beginning that she is pregnant with what is referred to as an owl baby. And it becomes kind of clear to me in any case throughout the story that an owl baby is kind of a metaphor for a disabled baby. And in interviews, apparently, Claire has talked about that she has written this book in order to talk about what it is like to be the mother of two children who are kind of shunned by society or who are looked at differently by society. And yeah, I really liked it. Like I flew through it. It was so engaging. The writing style really worked very well for me. It is a parable, and you know sometimes the metaphor, you can kind of be like, right, what does this like directly equate to? But I think you don't have to look at it that directly all the time. I think it is the concept in its origin is about is looking at owl babies as if they are as representations of disabled children or children who are outside of the norm in any case. But you don't have to look at every single action within the book and see like how is this a reflection of the reality for being a mother of disabled children, for example. There are definitely a lot of things that happen in here that have to do with the fact that the baby is an owl rather than the fact that the baby would be a disabled character. But I really enjoyed it a lot. I think, I don't know, it's the type of book where at the end I'm also kind of left unsure of my thoughts about it. And I think mainly because of that sort of like, yeah, but certain things of the here you cannot really directly relate back to disability. But I also don't think you have to. But so it's definitely a book that makes you think. It's definitely a book that raises questions and awareness, and that kind of looks at, you know, motherhood and this sort of idea of acceptance of people who are outside of the norm, that sort of idea of being shunned by of like society turning its back on certain people. And so for that, I definitely think it was a very worthwhile read. And as I said, it's also just really an engaging read and very well written read. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one as well. So with that, this is my current standing. This is where I'm left at with the choices that you have made for me so far. And now it's time for me to spend 3 days, 72 hours, of which some 8 or so probably have already passed by at this point in time. Yeah, 8 hours and 20 of that have already passed by with me sleeping. But so the rest of them, I'm gonna try and spend making up for the damage you guys left me with. No, not really making up for the rest of it. I'm gonna spend trying to get as many points as possible out of this month still. But so yeah, with that, I'm gonna end this vlog. Hope you guys enjoyed it and see you guys for the next one. Bye!